There is a Labor Party MP. He is a representative of the Central Coast, and his name is Craig Thomson. That is a name that you may have read in the past few days. You might have heard about it, but I tell you what, by this time next week, you will know it like the back of your hand. Craig Thomson is a man who is in quite a significant amount of political trouble, and if his political troubles ultimately result in him having to leave the Parliament, well, there would be a by-election. Most likely, in that seat, which he only won by 10%, there would be a change from the Labor Party to another party, and that would mean that the government would fall. As you know, it is about one scandal or one sickness away, the government from falling, and that is why this is a particularly important story. Next week when Parliament resumes, there will be a lot of talk about Craig Thomson, but I wanted to spend a few minutes with a man who has been well and truly across the Craig Thomson story and situation, and did a fantastic interview with him a week ago on my radio station TUE. He is my colleague and my friend, Michael Smith. Hello.
G'day, mate. G'day.
Now, let's go back to Craig Thomson, and this is all back before he was a Member of Parliament, when he was in charge of the Health Services Union. Let's go back to the start, and then we'll use some documents to explain why this is going to be a big story next week.
Well, he was with the union for 20 years. For 5 years, he was the General Secretary, the boss of the union. Now, in 2005, he was issued a union credit card. It had his name on it, and the two lines said, Craig Thomson, Health Services Union. A lot of companies, businesses, unions, government issue credit cards for people to, pay legitimate expenses, if you had to travel and pay hotel expenses and stuff like that. But it would seem, at the very, very least, that there was incredibly lax management of what could be put on this credit card. Because over a period of years, he ran up in excess of $100,000 in cash advance withdrawals. Like, that's a lot of money. $100,000 in amounts of $300, $400, $500 here and there. And there's a number of specific times where the credit card was presented and bills were paid, and that's the really important bit, for brothels, for escort services.
Now, this is the important thing, is that this story has risen a few times, but specifically the Sydney Morning Herald in 2009, they first produced the proof of what had happened here. Let's have a look at an example of it. What are we having a look at here?
That is it. Remember the old credit card vouchers where you had to lay the thing down on the machine, on the plastic machine, and it goes over the top? That is an imprint of a credit card with the name Mr. Craig Thomson, Health Services Union. That's on the machine, and over the top the thing is left a carbon print. So we know that that credit card was present when that voucher was imprinted. Because it's for a high-risk vendor, the credit card companies for brothels and other, high-risk vendors,
as they
ask for a lot more proof than just your credit card. And for a purchase like that, that's $2,475 at Good Times with Sydney room service. I mean, that's a big night. That is a hell of a...
That's a party.
That's something you're not going to forget.
Yeah, right.
So they have asked, because I rang them up and said, I rang the brothel up and said, if a bloke just fronts up with a credit card, do you just accept it? Will you take that for payment? They said, no. In 100% of occasions, we have to get photographic ID. So somebody has fronted up on this night. They have produced that credit card. They have produced that driver's licence. That driver's licence number is recorded on the back of the credit card voucher, and that driver's licence photograph had to match the person who was present when those services were acquired.
And quite clearly too, there's other evidence that's been uncovered that I know that you've spoken about with Craig Thomson on the air, and is all about the phone records that also are about the specific services.
Yeah, well, there's a mobile phone issued to him, and we've got the mobile phone record. You can see there that his mobile phone was used on the date that his credit card was presented at that brothel. That's the telephone number for that brothel. His mobile phone rang it up, and if you look at the mobile phone base station records, pretty much goes from where his home is, drives down the Pacific Highway down to Sydney, and the mobile phone is present, because the network records tell us that, in Sydney. So he reckons that it wasn't him. He's told me, no, it wasn't me, mate, it was somebody else. The third thing that makes this implausible...
Let's have a look at this. This is the bank statements.
So when your credit card bill comes in the next month, you get all the thingos, Coles, $50, Woolies, down the servo, $70 worth of juice, hotel stuff, that'd be all stuff you'd expect to be on that. When his bill's fronted up, he's got $2,475 that matches the amount from the brothel, and there it is, Key Wed, that's the trading name of the brothel. That's fronted up in his office, and he's looked at that because it's his own card. See, Mr. Craig Thomson, it's his business card statement. He's looked at it, and he had to make the decision as to whether or not to sign it off. You know, you get your credit card bill, you got to sign it off to send it back to the bank before your money gets transferred.
I recognise that amount of money, fair enough.
He sat down. Well, there's a little grab of my interview with him. You happy to play that?
Absolutely. This is Craig Thomson, TUE, last week.
You get your credit card statement, you have a look, oh, $2,475 keyword, what's that? You say to your PA. She says, oh, it's a hookers agency in Sydney. And you go, oh, fair enough, no worries, just pay that one.
Well, things don't work quite like that. But
well, hang on, mate. Did you authorise it getting paid?
In terms of the actual bills that are being paid, yes, I authorise all the credit card bills.
Now, so the key bit there is he turns around and he says, yes, I authorise the payment. Now, this is important in us going through and showing you all of that evidence and what you're going to hear next week, which is all of the things, including his mobile phone. So for him to say, I signed off the payments, brings us to where?
Right. That's the critical bit. If you go and you present a credit card at a brothel, no dramas, right? There's no offence there in Australia. If it's a union card and you present it at the brothel and you're 3 sheets to the wind and you get back to work and you say, oh, crikey, boss, I made a big blue here. I've handed over the wrong card. I'll pay the money back straight away. No drama. I would imagine no drama. But when the bill comes in and you look at the bill, and it's not once, there's another mob, Abbotoon Catering, Keyword, it's a number of occasions on which his card is fronted up there. The bill comes in, he has a look at it, he says, oh, bugger it, I'll pay it. And he's done it several times, as well as the ATM amounts. That, to me, raises, and I've sought legal advice from a senior counsel, George Brandis, Shadow Attorney General, I've interviewed him too on the record. There is at least a prima facie case to substantiate a charge of misappropriation of funds. The felony charge, I would suggest, of fraud, of obtaining a financial advantage by deception.
And the important thing about all of this too is that in order for that to make its way, and this is where a lot of the pressure you've brought to this point, the Parliament will pick up no doubt next week, is there has to be a complaint from someone inside the union. Well,
that's an arguable case, Paul.
Well,
sorry, there is a complaint, by the way, because I've said this on the radio, and a bloke from the union, just a bloke who's just a worker, pays his dues, said, oh, stuff this, I'll go down the Wyong police station. So he did, and he's gone down and seen Senior Constable Dye there, who's, said, g'day, how you going, mate? And he's taken a report. There is an event number with New South Wales Police. So New South Wales Police are officially aware of a complaint from one of the owners of the money, this bloke Simon, who went into Wyong Police Station. He owns one 10,000th of the money because he's a member of the union. But I would say even in the absence of a complainant, there is sufficient public domain evidence that the New South Wales Police should be aware of a serious indictable offence. Now, there are two, right? There's when he sits down in the office, he signs off that stuff and misappropriates the money at that point. But I would also say this, and a lot of people pussyfoot around this, I won't, I'll just say it. The implausibility of his claim, it wasn't me. To believe him, you got to believe someone got into his wallet, took his credit card, got into his wallet, took his driver's licence, got his mobile phone, used it to ring up the brothel, went down the highway into the brothel in Sydney, presented the credit card, presented the driver's licence, and then they've gone, we've got to check your photo ID, and he looks remarkably like this Craig Thomson, written the driver's licence number on the back as well, and then put it all back in his wallet and his phone back the next day so he never noticed. And then a month later, when this bizarre thingo comes up on his credit card bill, $2,475, he goes, oh, bugger it, just pay it. I mean, give me a break. That's just not plausible. Now,
this is the thing, is that Craig Thomson denies that version of things. Exactly. And he denies those things. He will deny them in the Parliament, and the politicians around him are saying, valued member of the team, they don't want the investigation.
That's the thing, Paul. That's what really sickens me as an Aussie. I wrote to the Prime Minister and said, ma'am, here's what this bloke told me. He said he did it. Do you approve of his behaviour? She wrote back and said he remains a valued member of the Labor parliamentary team. Well, it tells you something about her standards, which are appalling, to say that. But it gives rise to this view that in Australia, if you're a Labor mate, if you come from a union, you'll be protected. The Parliament, the parliamentary Labor people will rally around you, and that they'll assign somebody like Fair Work Australia to investigate it, not the police. There's clear evidence here of the prima facie evidence, I should say, of the commission of a serious indictable offence that a day one, week one probationary constable would investigate. But it gives rise to this feeling that we're all equal, but some are more equal than others, and if you're a Labor mate, you'll be sweet, and that stinks.
And that's why this is going to be big in the Parliament next week. Smithy, you've been out in front of it. You deserve due credit and congratulations.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you very much. Michael Smith, my colleague, my friend from Radio TUE. Craig Thomson has, as we said, denied that version of things. No doubt it will be the same in the Parliament next week, but it is going to be a very, very big week.